Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So of course today we are going to talk about the ban list. A couple of forbidden/limited list updates here. This one for June 23rd is a lot more minor, just a couple of cards coming off the ban list, which I'll touch upon very quickly. I don't think either of these cards are going to have any huge impact on the meta. Time Seal is, funny, but isn't really a threat anymore. And Global without Halki Fibrax really isn't nearly as powerful as it used to be. So I think these are both fine to come back to 3. The real meat of the ban list is going to go live on July 3rd, and that's what we're mainly going to be talking about today. That's going to be Snake Eye Oak going from 3 to 0, Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures going from 3 to 1, Astrograph Sorcerer going from 1 to 3, and Mathmech Diameter going from 1 to 3 as well. Alright, so let's talk about the big one. Let's actually start with that. I'll say this, and I've seen a couple of different takes so far online in response to this ban list, but I think these are both good hits, and I think in particular, Snake Eye Oak is a fantastic hit. Dare I say, this might end up being the best ban that Master Duel has done since Tearlament's Merly. I have seen, not a lot, but a few people at the very least saying that this ban doesn't do anything, that Snake Eye is still the best deck in the room, that they should have banned Original Sinful Spoils instead, and I'm just going to say it now. I think if you don't think that the Oak ban is going to be impactful, you're kind of self-reporting as not really being very knowledgeable about Snake Eye, or as a result, the overall Master Duel meta. Because Oak to 0 is actually just massive as far as the blow to Snake Eye, right? It makes banishing Ash or Poplar now just a complete and total devastating blow for the Snake Eye deck. Because Oak was not only another good level 1 fire body, but also could summon back from the banish zone. It meant that something like Called By on Ash or Poplar, while annoying to the Snake Eye deck, was not game ending. Now those plays are actually just game ending. The Snake Eye deck does not have an easy way to retrieve those cards back from the banish pile. Also, now the deck only has one way to go into Flamberge, and that's Snake Eye Ash. So now if Snake Eye Ash gets hit with Valor or Imperm, that can also be a turn-ending move, because previously the deck could pivot into Oak, usually by getting OSS off the Poplar that they search, but that's no longer an option. Snake Eye Birch, the other level 1 Snake Eye monster, if you remember, can only summon a Snake Eye monster from deck during the opponent's turn. So this is going to be a lot less of the body churning out resources that Snake Eye has access to now. Similarly, if you banish Ash or Poplar, now Flamberge is also pretty much useless because it can't summon back 2 level 1 fire monsters if there's not 2 level 1 fire monsters. Furthermore, on top of that, now opening Poplar is even worse than it already was, and if you open any combination of Ash, Oak, Poplar, Flamberge, or not Oak because that's banned, but Ash, Poplar, Flamberge, OSS, like if you open pretty much any combination of those 2 cards, your combo is going to be severely reduced in power level, if not just like undoable at that point. Yeah, this is huge. This is actually a massive blow to the deck. But why I think this is such a good hit, and why I compare this to the Tearlament's Merly hit, is that while Oak to 0 does hurt Snake Eye, it doesn't as nearly as badly hurt all of the decks that we're using and really relying on Snake Eye as an engine. I'm thinking about Fire King, I'm thinking about Rescue Ace, right? Those are the 2 big ones where, again, I've seen a lot of people call for the ban of Original Sinful Spoils instead of Oak. But the thing is, if you banned Original Sinful Spoils, now those other already pretty rogue level decks, Fire King Snake Eye you could argue is a bit above rogue, and I would, but all those other decks are going to really lose out in terms of power level. Infernoble, another rogue level deck that really loses out on power level with the OSS ban. But Oak, however, this ban really just affects the more quote-unquote pure Snake Eye builds, or Snake Eye Fiendsmith, or Millennium Fiendsmith Snake Eye builds. That's going to be the real ones that suffer from the Oak loss. Original Sinful Spoils is actually another reason why the Oak ban is impactful. Now that card has even less targets in, again, a Millennium Fiendsmith, or quote-unquote more pure Snake Eye deck, a more Snake Eye focused strategy. There's already a lot of times where you would combo out on turn 1, right? And you would go through all of your OSS targets, a lot of times not even needing to activate Original Sinful Spoils. So the card was already dead a decent amount of the time when playing this deck, and now it's going to be dead even more often. While again, still being a solid pick for stuff like Rescue Ace and Fire King. Now, Original Sinful Spoils is still a crazy powerful card, but remember, it's at 1 in Master Duel, which I think is a fine number for it to stay at with the Oak ban. Another thing I've seen people say about Original Sinful Spoils relative to the Oak ban is I've seen a lot of people go like, oh wow, Konami sure doesn't want to refund us any UR dust for the Snake Eyes cards, do they? And I'm just like, did we not just get back 60 dust for copies of OSS as well as 30 from Bonfire on an extremely recent ban list? Like, listen, I'm not gonna just sit here and stand Konami. There are, of course, lots of valid criticisms, even around dodging URs, even on this very list, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But people criticizing Snake Eye Oak as simply a means of avoiding giving us 30 URs are not only, I think, off the mark on that criticism, but they're also just, again, in my opinion, kind of self-reporting on how little they understand about Snake Eye to think that Oak is not an impactful ban. This is huge, and I think this is an excellent hit for the deck. I've always been in favor of hits that stop a powerful strategy from being as powerful as it is without outright killing it. This is why I really compare the Oak ban here to the Merly ban for tier limits. You know, of course, that was a pretty infamous one. TCG and OCG banned Kiklos, Master Duel banned Merly instead. That move was pretty heavily criticized at the very beginning, but was also pretty quickly acknowledged to be just the right call. It left tier limit as a lower powered but still very viable deck, arguably still even tier 1 right after Merly got banned. And it also saved Sprite because it meant that Elf didn't have to eat the ban. A lot of the reason for the Elf ban was because of Merly. So I really appreciate that Master Duel was willing to go a little bit more of an obtuse and nuanced angle in order to make sure that these archetypes just didn't die outright. Because in my opinion, killing decks outright is really just bad ban list philosophy. I know there are some people out there who completely disagree, who thinks that decks should die. I remember even as far back as a year ago, there were people saying Flambird should be banned. And not just like random people on the internet, but people I regularly talk to. When I said, well, that would kill the deck though, they were like, yeah, that's what the ban list should do. I completely disagree with that. I think it is it's a very bad feeling for somebody to invest not only resources, but time and brain power into a deck, only to have it not function whatsoever. But again, these hits, which curb the power level to a very noticeable degree, while still leaving the strategy with room to explore, are the absolute best way to do it. I will always praise Master Duel for doing this. However, we are now going to talk about a hit which I'm a little bit less of a fan of. See, like I said before, I will still criticize Konami for UR dodging, just only when I think it's a valid criticism, and I think it is somewhat valid here, with Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures going from 3 to 1. I'm just going to say this now, I really think this should have been Sengenjin going from 3 to 1, not just because I want 60 more UR dust, that would be nice, but that's not even really the first thing I'm thinking about, because I really think that's the wrong angle to think about bans from. It's a totally wrong angle, in my opinion, to be valuing how much UR dust you're going to get before the balance or health of the game. But obviously, Millennium Engine did need a hit. We saw it very prevalently played not only in Snake Eye in the latest, I was going to say Duel's Cup, but the World Championship qualifiers, but of course in Crystron as well as very many other decks too, but mostly Snake Eye and Crystron. So not a surprise to me that Millennium's getting hit. But the reason I think Sengenjin should have gone to 1 is a couple of reasons. One, the card can search itself, which is hugely relevant, not only just kind of in general for establishing follow-up plays, but also for establishing your rank 8 plus an extra body, right? Because if you start with Wedju Temple, for example, you place a monster from hand to the spell trap and Sengenjin. You summon Sengenjin, place Golem, Golem summon, but it only gets you 2 bodies. But if you start with Sengenjin, then of course you can go Sengenjin, Sengenjin for Golem, and then Golem for Wedju Temple, and then place the 2 bodies. However, if you start with Golem, you can still go Golem for Wedju Temple. Wedju Temple, place a monster and Sengenjin from your, and then yes, a monster from your hand and Sengenjin from your deck. Sengenjin summon, add another copy of Sengenjin, which has not used the first effect to place itself in the spell trap, so it still can. Long story short, limiting Sengenjin would have made it so the Millennium Engine can no longer put out 2 bodies unless they open the, or 3 bodies rather, the rank 8 plus the Golem for those 2 bodies, unless they hard open the 1 copy of Sengenjin. So that's why I think that card should have gone to 1. Them putting Golem to 1, to me, is just a pretty blatant UR dodge, but I actually will give them the benefit of the doubt slightly, because I'm almost wondering, what if Konami didn't want to outright hurt the Millennium Engine that badly? What if they intended a minor consistency hit instead of the major consistency hit that Sengenjin would have offered? And my hypothesis for this stems from the fact that they also banned Oak. If they didn't touch Oak, if they didn't touch any Snake Eyes cards and it was just Golem to 1, then I would be a lot more upset about this. However, with the Oak ban and Golem to 1, now you are still able to use the Millennium Engine in Crystron to a pretty successful degree. You could still use it in Snake Eye if you really want to, but also OSS is at 1, so Zombie Vamp to try to hit that 1 copy is a lot more risky. I understand some strategies are still doing that, but you're now not only taking a risk, but with the Oak ban, now you're taking a risk for just a lower power level strategy. Whereas, you know, Crystron really isn't overall affected that much by Golem going from 3 to 1. And, you know, as much as they would be as if Sengenjin had gone from 3 to 1. So, I don't know. On one hand, I do want to say it should have been Sengenjin for both balancing purposes, and it would be nice to get back UR points. However, there is also a part of me that does see the angle where maybe Golem to 1 by itself is just going to be fine. We'll have to see how this next meta progresses, how good Snake Eyes still ends up being, if it even still wants to play Millennium, and how prevalent Crystron with Millennium ends up being. But yeah, I don't know. I see like multiple angles when it comes to this hit. I both agree with it in some respects and disagree with it in others, which I think is really the case a lot of the time when it comes to ban list hits, at least for me. Like, I see people so often being like, well, I mean, this is a human thing, not even just a Yu-Gi-Oh thing, but like, people either saying, this is blanket good, or this is blanket bad. But when it comes to, especially like these kinds of like game balancing decisions, I think it's worth seeing both the good and the bad, and being able to, you know, kind of parse it out from there. All right. We have Astrograph Sorcerer going from 1 to 3. This is fine. It'll be interesting to see how this ends up affecting Pendulum decks. Most of the time, I don't think... I mean, I'm far from a Pen expert. I never play Pen decks myself. But you really typically only need 1 Astrograph Sorcerer to pop off. But you can also summon multiple of these from your hand, like off this first effect. You can actually summon multiple Astrograph Sorcerers, so it's not a bad thing to have multiple copies, but I don't think it's like super needed either. Overall, I think this is a fine unlimit. Mathmech Diameter from 1 to 3. This is also a completely fine unlimit that really just did not ever need to happen in the first place. So I've seen multiple different responses to Diameter 3. I've seen people say, let's go, Mathmech is back, and then other people say, this means literally nothing, you only still play the 1 Diameter anyway. And as usual, I think that neither extreme is correct when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh takes. I think the middle nuanced balance take is going to be the most relevant one, and I think that you could slot in a second Diameter. See, here's the thing. Mathmech did used to play 3 Diameter, but I don't know if you would anymore. Because... I mean, I don't know. It's not a 1-card starter. In this meta, in 2025 Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm always thinking about starters and how much can this card do by itself. Diameter, of course, is not a starter, which makes me hesitant to jam 3 of it. It is a really solid extender. If you can open this card along with a way to get to circular, then it's really, really good. So that's why MathMech would very often play 3 in the past, but also last time Diameter was at 3, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was very much in like a 2-card combo meta still. There were still a lot of 1-card combos out there, don't get me wrong, but 2-card combos were still good enough. Like, as in you could still really reasonably plan both for and around them. But nowadays we just call that opening the starter and the extender. So I could see myself playing a second Diameter, but I don't think I would play 3 in MathMech. But I could see myself very easily playing a second copy, for sure. Alright, so that's all of the major hits. And again, there is also the other ones we briefly touched on, Glow Up Bulb and Time Seal to 3. I don't think these are going to have any major meta impacts. I do remember reading on Reddit once kind of recently. Not that I like seriously browse the Master Duel subreddits, I just when I'm on my break at work, sometimes I quote-unquote hate scroll just to see what bad takes people have. I remember seeing a comment recently with like 20-ish upvotes that was like, oh yeah, Glow Bulb can never come back. It's banned because of Naturia, and it's like, no, that's not right. It's banned because of Halki Fibrax. Without Halki Fibrax, this card doesn't really do anything by itself, and I can't really think of anything that you would slot this into as part of its combo line that would make this really broken. Believe it or not, I don't think you actually play this in Naturias, because what? Yeah. What level 4 Earth non-tuner are you going to use it with? The Camellia, the level 4 is a tuner, so anyway. This card is completely fine. Time Seal is also completely fine. I don't really think the kind of loop shenanigans that made this card ban-worthy in the first place are feasible in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I think the scariest use case of this card would be like Labyrinth, but like, let's be real. If Labyrinth is able to set up on you to such a degree that they can loop Time Seal to skip your turns forever, they already could just beat you. Like, they already have the resource to out control you. That would just be like a BM cherry on top. So I think these unlimits are both fine. All in all, when it comes to this list, I think it's a good one. I think there could have been more done. Again, I think I will end up ultimately on my stance that I think it should have been Sengenjin to 1 and not Golem. I could understand why, you know, even from a non-UR refund standpoint, why you would want to limit Golem and not Sengenjin. But I do think the Millennium engine is good enough that Sengenjin is absolutely just worth limiting. And Oak to 0, again, I think is fantastic. I really do think that this is equivalent to the tier limits rarely hit in terms of the impact it's going to have on the deck while still making it meta relevant for those who want to try it out. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Always eager to hear from you too. I don't think I'm going to do an outro on this one. I want to get this one out kind of ASAP. So I'm just going to kind of upload it unedited and yeah, get that out there. Also, I am planning on going live today, the same day this is being uploaded. In fact, I'm probably live around, if it's within a few hours of this video being uploaded, I should be live right now. So whether you want to watch here on YouTube or over on twitch.tv/hexlexlive, I multi-stream to both platforms, so you can catch me wherever you prefer to watch streams. But I think that's going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you so much for checking out the ban list with me here. That's going to do it, though. This is Hexlex. I am signing out, and also hoping that you have a fantastic day.